Hello, hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to another episode of Teach Gen Tech. And hey, we are finally, mostly because of me, going back and doing learning TypeScript with Josh Goldberg.
Woo!
Yay. All right. So it's been a hot minute since we have been streaming. Like, oh gosh, has it really been 2 months? I think
Two
it might be
months.
2 months.
Yeah, it was like mid-November, give or
Oh,
take.
wow. Yeah, and there's been a lot of learning since then, at least on my side. I mean, you already know all of TypeScript. You wrote a book, so I'm like, yay, you know a lot of this coding stuff. I feel like there's been a really, really big shift for myself, which was um, learning that I don't do things offline very well at all. Like, if I have homework, I'm not always as keen to do it if, you know, I'm not streaming, which isn't a great feature of myself, but it's a thing. At least I've learned. And the other part is learning how, and I put a lot of thought in this because we're going to be starting the Python stream back again as well, is how are we going to structure this to make it consumable? And for myself, that had a lot to do with how we approach this and really making sure that we break it down, because I went through an experience where I was kind of shut down and I was like, I'm never doing this. And I hate that other people have been shut down. And they may not know how to build the same relationships like I have, or always feel like they want to reach out to other people. So, that being said, you are an expert in this field. And I'm curious, before we dive into like setting up everything for learning TypeScript itself, can you introduce yourself a bit more and also tell us, like, what would you tell a newbie and how would you tell newbies to maybe approach this? Because I know that not everyone is like up in everybody else's grill of going, "Hi, talk to me." Because and shout out to Ben. Thank you again for another subscription.
Yeah,
Yay.
Ben. Woo!
Okay, Josh, all you now.
Cool. Hi, everyone. Good to be back. Uh, Good questions. I'd say it's hard to get intent across correctly on the web, and also some people aren't accustomed to that. So sometimes a very reasonable help request is incorrectly received as a I haven't done any work, please tell me everything request. And I think it's on the person who is more knowledgeable in the area to try to assume like, okay, that's probably not what they're asking. Like maybe I should reevaluate like what they're actually asking, which is my fancy way of saying I think someone getting shut down for asking for help is a bad thing. I don't like that. Um,
That is a
nope, go
great
ahead.
point. That is a great point, because I know for myself, a lot of it has to do with not necessarily knowing how to ask the question. And which it may seem like that I didn't do the homework. But a lot of times it's me going, "Hey, I don't know how to Google this because I don't know the terms, but could you just like, I don't need you to do the work. I don't need you to necessarily like, explain the entire thing." But for example, I spent like 3 hours trying to update my terminal, like to my home directory. It's like 4 hours and I'm like trying all this stuff and I'm like lots of Googles and I'm looking for it on an app called Hyper, and I'm looking at it for like Mac OS. And so I finally was like, okay, I'm going to ask my D&D smarties because they know what's going on and they're in this world. Uh and the reply from Roy was, I'm pretty sure you're using, is it called, do you say it out loud as Zish, ZSH? He's like, I think you're using that and not Bash. He's like, just try these two things to ensure you're using this, and then you're, uh, and then you should be able to Google it. He solved 5 minutes worth of knowledge. Like it took him probably 2 minutes to reply to this. The 3 hours it took of me Googling it and not getting anywhere. And he was able to see that I was just incorrectly trying to Google it because I don't know it. And that's, I think, one of the hardest things, to your point, that people are like, yo, why are they asking? And it seems really overbearing, like they're not doing the homework. And hello, homie. Happy to see you. Um, so how would you suggest to newbies to maybe show that they're doing more of the work, or also to people being asked that to be a bit more, I guess, kinder or empathetic when answering the questions, to not be like, yo, bro, you haven't done shit, so I'm not going to answer you?
Those are two very good questions. For the first question, for newbies to show off that they've show off to show that they've done the work, it might help to give the high level summary of what you've looked at so far and how much time you spent. Um, in the case that you just described of, I can never remember how I like to pronounce this. Let's say ZSH or Bash. Say, okay, I've been trying to do this, whatever, upgrade Bash. I've Googled around these types of phrases. I have tried switching apps. I'm on whatever Mac or Windows, XYZ, Linux, and it's still not working. Here's how it's not working. Could you please help me? Um, so especially when I worked at a corporate job and had people coming to me for help, I would always ask first, what is the stuff you've done already? Because I don't want to assume they've done nothing. I just want to know what they've done so I don't repeat myself. And also, I've found for myself, especially, and anecdotally from other people, having to say what I have done so far oftentimes makes me realize, oh, wait, I haven't done this particular thing that I know I probably should now that I'm thinking about it. So it's both helpful for the person you're asking for help and helpful for you as the person asking. How does that all sound?
Yeah, and that totally makes sense. And something that homie said, Googling is hard when you don't know exactly what to Google. 100%. Like I was
Yeah.
Googling Mac stuff and yet, or hyper stuff. And to be honest, I thought I was Googling Mac, but I might not have been. But it didn't occur to me that there was something else, like Bash versus ZSH. Like I knew they were two things, but I figured it would just like no. Google doesn't know. You have to break it down. And I
Yeah.
think that's a really good call out of how to tell someone when you're asking for help, but also how to reply when someone was asking for help, of just what have you done so far?
Nice.
Um, I say that because with my experience that I went through recently, I was really stuck on an image, and I put, hey, I tried this article, but I'm still really stuck and I don't know why I'm stuck on this. And they replied back with the article that I already just tried. I'm like,
That's just disrespectful.
that's not helpful.
Yeah.
And I bring this up because I really want Teach Gen Tech Show to become accessible for everyone and make it so that way people can learn and aren't like scared of asking these questions. And also for people to really learn that yes, it can be very scary and frustrating, and to be able to go and get into tech, but it is very, very, there are so many dope humans that want to be able to help. It is very time consuming to help one on one. So, how do we start changing these conversations from, the very beginning? And what up, Dev? Dev is joining us from YouTube. We're also streaming on Twitch, which is where a lot of the crowd is at. If you want to join us, I I will figure out how to, link my Twitch. I can do that. And then also, Ben brings up a great point of that of accessibility, or a great yes. I did say accessibility because I think it's so important of not only like captions, which by the way, y'all, on our YouTube on Misc Mondays, uh oh, I'm clicking things. On Misc Mondays with Laura, we are talking about OBS, and Ramon has been joining us to talk about doing live captioning, which I think is really great and something that would be so helpful. StreamYard doesn't have that as of right now, but anyway, with that side note over, um, let's move on to, so we have this really cool book and this cool project that we're going to be doing together of going through your book and learning some things about TypeScript, which I'm very excited about. And I'm not going to have us go through the entire book again of like what chapters are there or anything like that yet, because these are all, we went through it a few months ago. And what I really want to do is set up a repo in GitHub that has the README, talking people through it, talk about why READMEs are so important, and then work backwards of, hey, so we're going to try chapter 1's project, see what we can learn do without knowing anything about it, and then kind of pick apart the chapter from there. Because something that I've learned in my own learning is without live application, it's very, very hard for me to learn the fundamentals if I don't know where they go, which is very frustrating, because this is why people tell me, I get why they responded, it would help if you learn the code. I know it would. I want to learn the code. I just am not great at learning the fundamentals. I like doing big, really difficult things first. So, how does that sound to you?
That sounds great. I think whatever way you approach it, whatever direction you come from, whether you're going from the foundations and applying them to the code or using the code as a way to figure out what foundations you need, it's these are all very valid, good ways of learning. So I personally am opposite from you. I try to do foundations and then apply to code when I'm learning a new language, and I'm really excited. I think this is a good matchup that we're each coming at it from a different direction.
And yes, everyone, my dog is being really annoying again today, so I will be randomly trying to stop her from licking her paws. And yes, this is a conversation that Josh and I had a while back as well, because every other Friday is learning TypeScript. Every opposite Friday is learning Python with Automate the Morning stuff. And a lot of people would say, don't learn 2 languages at once. Yet, learning 2 languages at once have really been helpful, because then I can actually understand what the differences are, what's something that's in JavaScript or TypeScript or something like that compared to Python, and when people talk about them. So it's, again, this is all for somebody, your own learning practice, the way you learn. I am curious for everybody listening, watching, or if you're watching afterwards, I would love to see this in the comments. How did y'all learn? Did you go fundamentals first? Did you just say, hey, I want to build a website, so I'm going to just go figure it out as I go? How did you learn to code? And okay, well, we get that set up. I am going to get our, all right. So Teach Tech has an org now in GitHub. It's very, very exciting and somewhat new as of like earlier this week. And I will link that down here for us. Oh, that's such a good one. Coffee said, I had to look at that for a second. I'm like, there's letters and words, and I'm like, I know what this says. 80s computer bought at a garage sale and started playing. I love that. And Dev said, learned by practice first, fundamentals later. All right. I dig it. I dig it. Okay, so I'm not going to go too much into like GitHub and things like that because those are, yes, if you want to learn more, we can do more videos on this. This is something we've done before. And it's always a balance of when making content, if anybody's curious about this, of how rudimentary you go, like how beginner friendly do you go? Because if you don't build upon it, then people aren't going to be learning with you if you go back to the very beginning every time. So I will link that one really quick of just some fundamentals of GitHub that I did with Rizal, who is one of GitHub's developer advocates. See if I can talk. Developer advocates. And this was when I was a baby learner myself, because I am pretty sure this was my third or fourth stream. But you can also see what the differences are since I first started. All right. So we're going to go into Teach Gen Tech and create a new repo. Maybe. Yay. And we're going to call it Learning TypeScript. Curiosity, I don't know if it does this, but does anyone do camel casing on this? Does GitHub actually see camel casing?
I tend to do like uppercase letter firsts in languages that tend to do that, or for some projects, and it will like know that that's the normal canonical URL, but it'll still work if you do the lowercase. So I've always been kind of nervous about that, of like, in what case will it not work?
Okay. Okay. Oh, I didn't even know that had a name. GitHub saves capitalizations. Ben prefers Keba case. So learning TypeScript. So the dashes.
Kebab, because it looks like a kebab, or the letters are the little whatever vegetables on your stick.
I didn't know that was a thing. Okay.
Makes me hungry every time. That's the only reason I wouldn't want it. And yeah, I still do it a lot. +1 to kebab case. Also +1 to Ben as a human.
Yes. Yes. All right. And okay, something that I just am curious about for everyone. Of some people have told me like you always add a get ignore. Some people have been like, nah, you don't really need to add a get ignore. Like, what's everybody's preference on this?
Privilege of being an audio live person, I can go first. I normally add a get ignore if there's anything that I know the repo is going to build that I don't want checked in. Like if I'm doing TypeScript, TS files become JS files, but you don't really need to check those JS files in. So that. But if I'm just doing like a markdown repo, just like a bunch of markdown or text documents, why bother?
Okay. So would we just do JS files or type like? Would we leave the JS files or would we leave the TypeScript files?
You'd leave the TypeScript files. Those are the source code, and then there are built outputs, which in this case are JS files. So if they have a TypeScript option in there, that would be nice, but I don't.
Oh. Yeah, they don't.
Oh, well.
Hey, you should talk to GitHub about that, Mr. TypeScript.
I'll get right on it. I'll use all my high-level network connections in the industry to affect this change, because that is something I can definitely do at this stage of my career.
Okay, we'll leave it blank for now. I'm gonna leave the license link for now. We can talk about that another time. And Coffee said, maybe depends on tooling. Like if I'm gonna use an IDE that will have junk I don't want in the repo. Good point. And then also, I think maybe I'd spin up a repo and then add and get ignored later. That's what I've been doing a lot of, is adding a lot of this post, because I'm just like, I just need this to go right now, and I don't want to think about all of that because I just want to get going. What? Whoa, homie coder, are we good? What are we good about or not good about? For those who don't know, homie is like one of the dopest people I've ever met, um, or talked to. Do you say met if you haven't met them in person? I don't. I don't know. Josh, have we met, or have we? Oh,
Oh. Oh, both to the chat thing. I'm guessing it was like a misclick. I don't know if we've met. If this constitutes meeting. I know people say nice to meet you in emails, which I've always been like, on as a phrase.
oh, uh, yay! Thank you. So, as a total side note, I feel very, very fortunate to have people, especially those who are streamers, but also those who know how to deal with meanies or creepers. And so Ben and Homie are both moderators, and they were messing with the, cool chat features that I barely. Yesterday was the first time I had to block someone, and it took me like 7 tries to try to like figure out how to block them. Um, as much as moderators are the best. And also, to get back to what you were saying, I think that I don't know, especially when you talk to someone a lot, like I'd be like, I feel like I know them because I talk to them a lot. We just like literally haven't met in person. Anyway, enough of that. So I'm gonna set up this README to start with. And this is probably my favorite part about Markdown, is it is very, very friendly at just drag and dropping images, because and it does everything for it. And ta-da! Look, our faces are on it. Coffee. Yeah, it was all you, Coffee. I'm just kidding. Wait, would it be if people didn't get enough coffee? Maybe something was wrong. Anybody? Anybody? No. Okay. I like my cheesy puns. So, biggest things that we are going to do, learning. And y'all can totally make fun of my TypeScript. That may take me like 7 times to figure out. Learning TypeScript with Goldberg. Goldberg. I'm not gonna lie, I have actually like had to go, and I might even do this right now, of going and looking and seeing how you spell your last name, because I'm like, is it Goldberg? Is it Goldberg with a U? Is it like, I second guess myself every single time when trying to figure out what to say.
I'll give you a tip that you will never forget that will help you spell. It is like iceberg but gold. Which is, I'm told, so stupid of a tip that people remember it.
Or you're a golden iceberg.
That, yes.
Okay, so learning TypeScript. And the biggest things we're going to do is, and for those who don't know, you can go back and forth from edit file over to preview to see how it's looking. And one thing that I just really want to link here or put here are all of the links that we use on a regular basis, which is going to be copy is the website, which I'm trying to think of how to put this. That's what I was thinking about when he said it. Ben saying, Josh Goldberg over here, like, I'm going to sink the Titanic, but gold. Yes. Yes. I dig this. I dig this. All right. So we will feel like I just want to link the but there's the starters, the books. All right. We'll do projects. I'm going to clean it up in a second, y'all, before you yell at me about my markdown. And then what would you call this?
The page? Like a chapter landing page? I never really figured that out.
Yeah. Because I feel like this is a big reason that I want to put these as separate links in there is because the one that I just used before this was where we're looking at the projects. But if we're at the home page, I may not scroll down. That is just something that I know that I may not do. So I want to link the projects and have that. But this other one is just so helpful of like just like notes with the projects. Maybe notes or summaries, learning modules. Ooh.
Learning module makes me think of the way Codecademy organizes things, which is like lessons inside courses, inside modules, inside paths, which is also a reasonable way of doing things. But yeah, I like summaries, modules,
Okay.
pubs.
How about I'll put the link as summaries, and then when I break it down into each of them later on or next stream, who knows, I will put modules. So we'll do a little bit of both.
Everyone organizes path, module, course, hub, etc. differently. It's fun.
Oh, it's true. I have done it on multiple companies, and everybody does it differently. And you have to like notate which one, like what the string or path is. Breakdowns. I'm just putting that there so I remember. Put it there. So I am curious, and this is me being like, I've been in coding for like 6 months to those who code like daily and get paid to do this. Of do you go through and say like do this where you're like I'm just gonna link it all and then go back and actually make it work, or do you make sure that you're putting in the links properly about like while you're doing it?
I think it's more efficient to do what you were doing, just like put all this stuff there and then later on fix it up, because you never know what you're going to end up removing or changing. So, figure out what you want and then make it nice and tidy. That's how I code. I like get the logic to be generally what I think will work, and then I like go through with an actual eye for scrutiny and fix it up.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That is actually something that I recently just I like what am I trying to say? Y'all make sure you save stuff and actually upload it to wherever you're using, like GitHub. Because if you don't do that and you just keep doing stuff and saving it, then you might end up undoing something important that you did because you didn't upload it. And I might have done that this last week. It was not pretty. I was very frustrated. And I feel like that's just like, a path you must take. Okay, cool. Yay. We at least can commit changes. Okay. I want to go here. I want to go here and copy and where am I going? Hyper. Yay. Can y'all see my terminal or hyper well enough, or do you need me to make it bigger? Yay. So, oh, I'm just going to shamelessly plug this because I'm very proud of it. It is also the first tech writing thing I did. And Laura helped me a ton with just making it even more proper of how to update your home directory or like what you want to use there, because this helped so much on realizing and not putting stuff in my desktop or in my user folder and actually putting them in my code folder. So voila, I get to open it. Yay. And then CD, learning TypeScript. Fantastic. Code. This is one thing I haven't gotten fixed yet. We tried. We tried on a stream. Laura and I tried. And I'm just not determined enough to get there. So I'll just go magically turn it on. Yay. It's installed for a minute. Fantastic. We have made progress. Now, if I want to do the chapters like we were talking about, because we are going to do from JavaScript to TypeScript is chapter 1. And yes, like we have, and let me link this to everyone really quick so that way you can look it up yourself, it's talking about, just the overall, we did go through this in a previous stream, so not going too deep into this, but a brief history of JavaScript, the pitfalls, what TypeScript is as a programming language. And it was really fun to ask Josh these in details of a programming language, a type checker, a compiler, and a language service. I will at some point get those like probably chopped out of the first one and create a video based on those, because I thought those were really good and explanations of them, because it was always like, I don't think I ever thought of beforehand what a language service was or a compiler. And we really broke it down in that stream. And then TypeScript advantages, freedom through restriction. I feel like this is a very good one and really talks about the type of person when you're like learning of, I like to try to break everything and then learn it instead of having restriction, learning the rules and then breaking it. So we're going to try learning the rules and doing things better and faster. And then just getting started with everything. Now, we have the Typinator. So, going over here to be able to get it to store locally and have all of the projects. Quick question, and this is me not knowing GitHub Actions well enough. Is this something that if I add the repo with words, Jen, words, can I add this within the Learning Python repo, clone it inside the Learning TypeScript repo, and still be able to go into that folder and get it to load, even though they are both GitHub repos?
You could try.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a good question.
Because I feel like this would be a little easier for people to do than if I just like copy and paste things over. I just want them to be able to access it a little easier than trying to remember like where did Jen do all this stuff. So
Yeah.
let's find out. So we're in learning TypeScript. Let's paste. Oh, didn't I just hit copy to clone
Are you
it?
trying to? Did you mean like git clone paste?
Yeah.
I think you just pasted.
Yeah. What did? Oh, it didn't copy the entire thing for the clone.
Yeah, it just copies the URL.
Oh, that's weird. So why did this one copy the GitHub repo clone when this one only copied
Were you
the
in the
URL?
Were you in GitHub CLI when you copied? Like a little
No,
subsection? Huh.
I was just right here. See?
Yeah, that one's in GitHub CLI.
Oh, then why
And
didn't
then
this one go to GitHub CLI?
oh,
Because
that's
I
so
didn't
weird.
manually like move this one earlier. It was just on it already. Interesting. Um, oh, that's a good call. Coffee. Coffee just called out first off that I was just pasting the URL 100%. And then Offie also, wow, words, Jen. Maybe the clone does something. They haven't clicked it before. I use the GitHub CLI quite a bit, and I love that we are doing this live, even though I feel completely silly that I didn't realize that it was that. On it definitely is small things like this that can really frustrate people. Being me, I can get really frustrated when I don't notice those small things that make a huge difference. Like it probably could have taken me like an hour to do that. So, code. Hey, we got projects. Yay.
Nice.
All right. So, to hopefully make this a little easier on all of us, we don't need that one. We're going to put these side by side. Hopefully, make them big enough.
If you, for maybe another time, there's a really good app called Rectangle for Mac that gives you really nice keyboard shortcuts and like snapping behaviors. You can like drag and drop a window to the left side of the screen, and it'll snap to 50% of your screen width, like the way
Oh, that
Windows does.
is. I thought I closed a different one, but apparently I didn't. And that is phenomenal. What is it called?
Rectangle. I am a big believer that although I have a bunch of Macs and like use Macs for developments because I have to, I really like the Windows desktop interface a lot more. Yes, that one.
Yes. I'm gonna add this to my to-do list, y'all, really quick because this is something as funny as this may sound, I had to put in my to-do list yesterday to reply to a lot of you because I was like, I haven't replied to Homie. I didn't reply to Ben. Oh my God. So I'm just gonna put it on my to-do list so that way I remember later. Yay. And that's actually really exciting the way at least it sounds like it would work because especially while streaming, it can be really annoying to have to like manually do all of this.
Yeah.
Okay. So and y'all, if you didn't see it, this is already what I'm doing is I just went with step 1 and was like, "Oh, okay, let's do this." Without reading all of the steps or directions. So we're now going to read the directions and see if this is what I missed. So sweet. We went to the project. Ooh, okay. And Ben is saying that There's a few window manager apps in the rectangle camp. Def get at least one of them. I feel like this will like save my life. I'm so excited about it because especially if I'm doing stuff from my laptop, it's so frustrating. Okay, so we need to go. Oh, so we didn't even really need VS Code. Oh, this is exciting. Something that we were talking about, and I know not everybody was on the stream yesterday with distribute aid. What is a jest?
A jest is JavaScript testing. It's a library that you can run that runs your code tests and then lets you know how many tests passed or failed. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah. That is something that I think when we were streaming yesterday, the dog and I were just not getting along at all. She was barking at everything. So it was a lot of me going on mute a lot. But they brought up, I don't even know if this is it. No. A website that also explained a lot of it too. Maybe it was this. No, I'll look it up later. But that's a again. Yo, my chair just broke. Well, something broke, and now it's wobbly. Oh, that's entertaining. All right, well, I'm still here, so we're good. So back to this one. All right. So in this, we are going to copy, but we first need to go into learning TypeScript projects.
So you've done things slightly different from the command, which is fine. Just is going to be slightly different words. You cloned it into a folder named projects instead of a folder named learning TypeScript projects. So you can either just go to the projects folder or rename the folder to learning TypeScript projects.
And I'm not going to lie, when it comes to this stuff, a lot of times I don't know if it's called cheating or just doing things differently. I'll actually just go edit it here instead. And a big reason I do that is this for folder structure, it still makes a lot more sense when I'm looking at it this way than folder structure going through terminal. So
that's totally reasonable. I do the same.
Named learning TypeScript projects.
In kebab case. Happy lunchtime, everyone on the East Coast.
Cool. That way we can actually go through the directions the way you have it said. So yay. All right. And then npm I, is that installing something?
Yep, that's what the I stands for.
I was like, I know npm does installing a lot of things, but
oh, I should fix that security thing. Make it stop yelling about that.
Well, let's run the .audit fix. Yay. Is the code on the terminal VS Code right now? Wait. I'm not sure if I know what you mean by that question. Coffee. This one, I'm currently using Hyper as my terminal right now, if that helps. I ended up somewhat watching James Quick like setup for terminal to make it look prettier. So this is what I ended up with. And what up, Sheepy? Thank you for the follow. And yes, we are like having fun having Josh break down TypeScript to very, very beginner friendly, which I think is a lot of fun. All right, so we fixed the vulnerabilities. We are going to cd into this. It's really fun to copy and paste. In one terminal, run the TypeScript compiler via the TSC script within whatever step you're working on. For example, start the TypeScript compiler on the first step and watch mode. Ooh. So basically at this point, I'm going to be honest, and I love that we're doing this at the beginning. I'm following directions, but I have no idea exactly what we're doing.
Taking notes here on how I should improve this site to explain this better.
No, not necessarily. I'm saying that we're doing it backwards. Like, remember how I said I wanted to do the, the problems or, the test before actually studying.
Sure.
So this is me going, hey, what is this? I want to see if I can figure it out. I would say, yeah, it probably does assume knowledge of NPMI or NPM. But this is a big thing, and why I asked Josh if we could do this is TypeScript is so commonly talked about when talking about JavaScript that I feel like a lot of beginners are like, hey, I want to learn TypeScript. And where a lot of people previously were like, yo, you got to have very solid JavaScript knowledge to learn TypeScript. And so I'm going through it as I got some JavaScript knowledge, a smidge. So I'm going to see if I can figure it out. And that I think is definitely not what TypeScript in general is normally the audience it gears towards, but also if we were to put some in between things, what would they be? And I think NPM is a caveat that we could put here of like, if you want to learn more about NPM, and I have a really fun error that I need to read. Whee!
You know what? I think this is a recent bug in this site where I shouldn't have been asking you to run that command. So I'm just going to say you can skip that. I'm gonna fix that now on the website. So just ignore the thing, the npm run tsc. You can command C out of this. Don't worry about it. Thank you for beta testing for me post-release.
Yes, if anybody needs me to beta test instructions, I'm here for it. I love learning. I also am really great at not using things the way they were meant to be used. So I break stuff to find bugs. It's a lot of fun. I would say also, oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Coffee. Okay. So we're going to skip that one. That was fun. In another terminal, run just via the test script on whichever step you're working on, for example, to start tests for the first watch mode. So let's do that. What? Oh, here we go.
And I should put a note in here that the tests will fail at first, and your job is going to be to fix them.
Yay. Okay. So what do I have? Okay, so test suit failed to run. Reference error, humanoid is not defined. And then the comments say c./original.js for their older JavaScript code. Module.exports.humanoid equal humanoid with a capital H, and then model.exports.robot equals robot. And going through this, I can run the test again. And let's see what, and really quick, I'm going back over here. Coffee just said you can install TSC globally and run it without npm run. They think Sheepy said, but if you can do npm run TSC, doesn't it mean you can do TSC fine too? They haven't gotten to see packaged .json though. I love having more, I don't want to say more educated, more experienced people, because then I'm like, oh, that's where you would look for that. That is good to know. That would make sense. But all right, so steps. I'm going to look at this. Step number 1, prototypes to classes. I'm going to just try to fix it based on the error code because I'm stubborn. And this is also, I'm not great at reading directions. As we can see, this is why Ramon, who is somebody that's been on my stream quite a bit, will tell me to read things out loud so I don't skip over them.
This does hurt me a little bit because I put effort into making all these chapter readmes, or project readmes, really flavorful and silly. But we don't have to go into that.
Part is there's so many different learning, ways of learning. And this is something that I could do this. I guess I'm just embarrassed to do it on stream, and also something I'm still getting used to the fact that I can do this for when they have steps like this of making sure I use my text to speech to actually listen to them and comprehend them. Where I honestly get a little embarrassed of doing it on stream because I'm like, what are people going to hear or think if I do that? And I think that is a big step of also not realizing that I can do that until the last couple years. So I'm so used to also just going, well, I have to just figure it out without reading documentation, because documentation has always been hard for me to read.
Makes sense.
So that being said, we're going to do what Ramon said, and y'all get to hear me read out loud. I'm very excited about this. All right. So we used for steps, we have step 1 and step 2. And I'm going to scroll down to the README that it linked to. And step 1 is prototypes to classes. The first project for you to overhaul hails from before the time of class syntax. How primitive. Okay, I also reading out loud with any proper inflection is not going to happen. So y'all, try to say it yourself. But also, yes, Josh, you are much better at writing these than a lot of people, because this is not how I write my readmes. My readmes are go here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yours are much more comical. The original .js file contains the project's original code for robot and humanoid functions used as classes. Your job is to port that code to proper ES2015 plus classes. Specification: an index.js export 2 classes using ES205 class syntax. Robot based on the robot function in original.js. Humanoid extending the robot class based on the humanoid function in original.js. Files, index.js, write your robot and humanoid function here. Index.test.js verifies robot and humanoid, and solution.js is the solution code. So don't look at solution yet. Got it.
Also, that's a typo. It should say function plural. I just fixed that too. Ha ha ha. Index.js, write your robot and humanoid function here should be functions.
Oh. I mean, when I'm missaying things, please actually go make sure that I'm not just missaying things.
To be clear, you said it correctly. I wrote it incorrectly, and now I'm fixing it in the original repo.
Okay.
So thank you. Good. You did nothing wrong.
You're welcome. And so that being said, and this is also me learning a bit of VS Code and how this was. This is a great question from Coffee. Jen, does ES 205 classes mean stuff to you, or would you like modern JavaScript classes to be more understandable? I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah, I meant it as ES 2015 because that's the technical like the technical
Oh,
term
okay.
for like what edition of JavaScript they were added in, because JavaScript gets new editions
Mm-hmm.
roughly every year now. But yeah, that's a good question. I think. Like, are you familiar with ES 2015 classes, aka just modern JavaScript classes?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yay! Thank you, Bedrock, for coming and hanging out with us and everybody over there. We are working on learning TypeScript, and I am being the annoying student that is going through all of these um, lessons from Josh's learning TypeScript book and doing them as I would normally do them, and also getting called out that I need to practice on reading out loud and learning more about JavaScript and TypeScript. It is pretty, isn't it? The bird is
It's a
pretty.
sun conure. I requested bird. I really like birds. They were kind.
I like the bird. I feel like without meaning to, I feel like the color of our background really complements the bird.
I just assumed that was intentional.
It wasn't. It was you and I used one, and then like I set one up for ours, and then homie made Laura's and my Monday strings similar that I was like, I don't want them to be associated. So I went and found a new one because I didn't want homie to change that one because I liked that one so much that I found this one and I was like, oh, they're pretty together. I like this. But that being said, Sheepy said, lately they've been thinking about learning TypeScript, helps if I can read, properly in the last couple months. They've been learning TypeScript and JavaScript by doing at the job. And they've mostly been missing most of the fundamentals, I guess. Well, that is where we're here, and you can join us every other Friday because that's what we're going to be doing. Oh, Coffee just said to Sheepy, hope they are doing better than their last job. When they started, they'd been doing TypeScript for years, which meant they were using file extensions and running ancient style JavaScript code through their TypeScript compiler. Ooh. All right, Bedrock learned half of TypeScript on the job. All of that just kind of sounds terrifying, but also I'm trying to like remember a bit of what Josh and I went through when we were streaming back in like November when we first went through this, because there was like one thing, and so to be very honest, y'all, I technically did this test back in November. I don't remember it whatsoever. And something else was, let's see, if I go to the original, actually I have to go find it. Projects. What project are we in? The type and
From JavaScript to TypeScript is the chapter, so there's a folder for each chapter, and then the Typinator is the project.
Thank you. I was looking just directly for the Typinator because it was the project name, but it makes way more sense that it's in the chapter, just not where I necessarily went. All right, so in the index, write robot and humanoid functions here, and I'm just gonna, but to answer your question earlier, Coffee, about ES 2015, to say it properly, I don't think I knew that was really a thing. Like, I didn't necessarily know what ES 2015 was, or that it was a thing, or that it meant really anything. A lot of what I would have done would have been like, oh, okay, cool. Let's see if we can figure out the rest of it, and may not have even registered what that JavaScript classes change, and there's different versions of them. I just would have gone, oh, this is JavaScript class that TypeScript uses, and end of the story. I think it's and I would say definitely, and as a reminder, just on this one, is that I am going through this very backwards of just seeing if I can figure it out instead of going through the chapter. So it's definitely maybe something that he does point out. You should go get his book. And it is something that you can also get the PDF version for Kindle and use text to speech. And a big reason for those who are like, Jen, you can't read very well. Why do you have a physical book? And a big reason for that is because as much as I need a text to speech tool, I am not good at keeping notes all digitally. I need to be able to physically look at things and in the order. And I use this for example. This is something that we typed last time. Maybe. We're going to get there because I can't see my, there we go, is I write notes in the book. And it really helps me remember things when I'm getting really stuck. So to me, books are for note taking. We're going to go with that. Oh, interesting. That Coffee said that they've seen people from 100 devs learn JavaScript and sure they encounter class quite early. They may, and to catch everyone up, because you may not know this. So to someone maybe learning in the last few years, it might be harder to understand that class wasn't always something there. I'm paraphrasing it. Always there or something. This is also my problem of reading out loud or reading in general is I just put words there. It's really annoying. A big part that I will say that I got a little stuck on classes when I was trying to figure it out for JavaScript, and it actually started to make more sense when doing TypeScript. Yet I've noticed that it's not something that's used everywhere. Like maybe it is, or I miss it, but I haven't seen, like when I'm working on other projects, that I have to create a class of something. Do you always have to create a class for something in JavaScript? Is this the thing that I just haven't stumbled upon yet?
You don't. I don't often use classes, once in a while, but
okay.
It's a feature.
This was a big part of actually why this ended up working out really well, but I was on LinkedIn Learning and classes were what I got stuck on. Like I was really having a hard time comprehending classes because they wanted us to pause and go do classes to put them back into the code. And I'm just like, and they use a backpack as an example. So it just was not clicking. And then when I was like, hey, I want to be a dev role, and everyone's like, you need to know tech and have content. And I was like, cool, I'll start streaming. And until we started learning TypeScript, I have not run into classes, which has given me more hope, where this one course that I was stuck on, it specifically needed me to do classes next. And I didn't realize that you don't necessarily need classes. So I'm excited that we're doing it now. Well, let me go back to this one because it was first. Bedrock said classes are for a specific programming style. And Coffee said languages like C#. Is it C?
C#. Yeah.
It was like trying to say seashells. Shelly,
Sally sells seashells by the seashore.
Yes.
Simply speaking.
Trying to say C#. Okay. And Java more force you to have classes versus like JavaScript and C++, where you can use them or not. Oh, I love this. This is just happiness. I don't see sharp. I wear glasses. That's just like the happiest thing for this Friday. Thank you. So, okay, going back to over here of rereading all of this and talking about classes, specification in index.js, export two classes using ES 2015 class syntax, robot based on robot function in original JS, humanoid extending the robot class based on the humanoid function in the original just.js. So what I was doing when I was like trying to figure this out for a different project is I kept always selecting them and would go to definition, trying to find them or seeing if they have like references or things like that. And then also something that I started doing, and I'm also doing this out loud so that way people can tell me if it's like not the proper way of doing things, of like yours walks me through like where they actually are, but that's not always something that happens when you do a full project. Is I'll just start looking for it and search it and then go see if where the original might be and where I need to change things. And that can be very helpful or very overwhelming. So thank you for telling me where things are in the original.js. Okay, so paste. And this is where I'm totally getting stuck because instead of module exports, wouldn't it just be exports or no?
I think you could kind of ignore that part of it because either way works depending on like what system you're running in. I don't normally use this style of things like Agile exports dot or module exports dot. This is called common JS modules. I normally use the newer like standard JavaScript modules called ECMAScript modules. Yeah, so this is CJS. I'm used to ESM. So yeah, if you could try removing the module dot from them and see what happens, but it should work the same either way. But either way, it doesn't really matter. Like it's the same code or the same result. Is that what you're asking?
I think so. And thank you for the follow, Mr. Software. Because when I was working on a different project, I thought it had more of like, yeah, it would be more just like this, where it was export. But I thought it would be like export instead of dot robot, it would be just like export robot equals robot without the dot. But am I just maybe remembering incorrectly, which is definitely possible, of what an export would be?
Yes, I think you're halfway between the style or the form of exports that's used right now in the repo and maybe like the new exports or like in different languages exports.
Okay. So step in the specification, export two classes in the ES 2015 class syntax. So those are already done. And then in original.js.
So this is honestly, you don't really need to go through this lesson, right? If you don't want to, this might just be a good exploration of how the projects are set up. But the intent of the lesson is that you have this old style of JavaScript code, and in the chapter, one of the things that it covers is there are like new ways of doing things and old ways of doing things in JavaScript because the language has been improving over the years. And one of the, like, there's an old way and there's a new way things is classes, where this was the old way of writing classes. You didn't actually use the word class. You made a function, and then it put stuff on the function's prototype, like robot.prototype.announce equals function announce. But if this isn't necessary for learning TypeScript, this is just like an exercise to get used to things ahead of time. So if you personally don't jive well with classes, you can just skip this.
Okay.
Up to you.
Yeah, and I think that is a interesting way of putting things, and could also be why I'm also struggling so much is with classes. Still, they just don't click. And Coffee said they think many learners might start off with website code that isn't like library with exports. This is possibly another way to confuse learners in lesson 1. And also, I think, yeah, that's fair. They're not super into NPM, but have a vague recollection about like common JS still being recommended for reasons.
That's good feedback. I'd +1 it. Sometimes, yeah, CommonJS, the old style of modules, some platforms or like some libraries or frameworks haven't been set up to support the new version of modules. So sometimes you do have to use CommonJS. I think that's why I use it here. But
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Like without even realizing it, like first off, I think this has been just like such a great exercise on how to say this, of like, cool, like for people that aren't the best, like me, at following directions, this is a really good example of why it's important to go back and follow the directions. And also like a bunch of different ways that we can like Google things and set them up, but also like, because as a reminder to everybody that's been hanging out with us today or may tune in later on, is I did not read the chapter. So I was just winging it. And I think that's very interesting because many, many people, I think when tackling things nowadays, they do that. They just kind of like skip ahead. And also, or the directions are not as entertaining. Which yours are entertaining. Oh, y'all, we need to talk about this though. This is like a really big reason why you should follow directions and not just skip ahead. Like, because there are funny things at the beginning of every one of them, every chapter. And you should read them, is what. So chapter 1 is from JavaScript to TypeScript. JavaScript today supports browsers, decades past, beauty of the web. It's a haiku. Okay, well, I don't probably read it in the proper way of reading them, but everybody should. I like the haikus. And this also gave me more of a way that I think, as if I were to say to newbies of going through this, of like, hey, if you're just wanting to start learning TypeScript and things, and you don't want to compare to JavaScript because sometimes that's not always the easiest, or want to deal with classes, maybe skip chapter 1. Because knowing me, if it wasn't for like all the support here, and I really appreciate everybody, is I would have been like, well, this isn't clicking. So I may be like, okay, I'm not going to learn it. Not because I'm like, oh my God, I can't like figure it out. But like a lot of times, since I'm so used to having to just like pick it up very quickly and move with it, I don't always know how to study or properly Google things. And I think this is such a good way of reminding people, if a chapter doesn't make sense, and this is not to Josh's book, this is literally to anything. If one chapter doesn't make sense, you can go around it and go learn other things. And maybe that chapter will start to make sense. And that is a big thing that I wish I could tell all learners in any topic. because when I was building my website this weekend and trying to do things, I kept having to remind myself, I'm very stuck on this problem. There is no reason I need to do this specific problem right now. I will go try something else. Thank you for the Jen rant of, if something doesn't click, go do something else for a bit.
Preach.
And thank you, Josh, for, being here and doing this, because I think this is a really good way of newbies also seeing that it's not something that may automatically click for people. Like, we had a lot of engagement from the audience, and thank you everyone that showed up that was also asking questions, because TypeScript is a very, I don't want to say difficult, I want to say new thought process. Like, it's harder to put together the methodology and thought mapping into place to be able to comprehend it. And that takes time. It's more time consuming than anything.
There's a difference between difficult and different.
Yes. And I would say that TypeScript is different, not difficult. At least when I've been able to use it in other projects, but it's definitely something I want to practice more. And this is really exciting. And I'm so grateful that Josh has come on to do this. And also, so with this being done every other Friday, and something that we have talked about for a while, but I really dropped the ball with the holidays, is even if Josh isn't available for TypeScript, or Laura's not available for when we talk about Python, is I'm just gonna, keep showing up and do it by myself. And we're gonna see what happens. Might look a lot differently, because I might try to skip through reading something. And then Josh will be like, I'll just have Josh's voice in my head going, but I put effort into it and it'll be funny, not like everybody else's. That's my impression of me remembering that I actually do enjoy reading your writing, instead of that is just a normal textbook.
Word.
So. All right, y'all. I feel like this is a really good breaking point. And on the README page for each chapter, I will be putting the link to the video stream. So that way, if you're wanting to skip around or try it, you can go through that and look at the chapters. And also, it will have a link to the projects, everything we've talked about. Please let us know. And first off, to everybody that's hanging out with us, anything else you want to ask Josh before we let him go for the day? And thank you for joining, Sheepy. I have questions. Josh, what headphones are you using?
Bose Quiet Comfort 35, some variant of them. The type, it's relatively new. They have USB-C. I tried the Bose noise canceling 700s and they were fine. They're not cheap or flimsy, but a little less sturdy than these classics. And they had the situation where the whole headphone was a capacitive touch thingy. So every time you adjust it, you could accidentally turn the volume on or mute yourself. It's really annoying.
Ew, I don't like that.
Yeah. But I really like the Quiet Comforts. That's a good line. It's 45S or something maybe.
I don't know where my headphones are. I was actually looking for them. I have a very old school version of them. I have Quiet Comfort 35s from 2018, I think. So mine are still the micro USBs, and very frustrating. So I've been going, okay, these are still really good quality. I cannot convince myself to go upgrade. And for those who may have questions about streaming, feel free to join in and ask questions about that too, because Josh is a fellow streamer. And if you don't already follow Josh, go follow Josh on streaming, because then you can ask questions there. And I don't know. Shout out? How do you do shout outs? Shout out. Oh, hey. Okay.
My goal for the beginning of this year is to figure out stream elements. I just haven't even tried that till now.
Ooh, we might be getting somewhere. Josh Goldberg. Haha. Okay. Yes, that took me like a full like minute just to get the shout out. But go follow Josh. And that is it for my side. I definitely will. I'm scared of this journey because learning live, I will say, like, as I grow in knowledge, learning live almost seems scarier because I'm like, I should be getting this by now. And I feel like other people see that and they're like, you should be getting that by now. And then I have to remember, Jen, it's okay. It's okay. You can still be a noob still forever. And
opposition research. Yeah, +1. It's okay to not know. Part of being a streamer for me has been being okay with other people seeing me flail and suffer, which I think is a good thing.
Yes. I and good call, Coffee. You you can, but funny enough, you say you keep meaning to try. I recently gave a talk. Oh, hey, Josh, I did my first talk.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, I did my first conference talk. I'm very excited about this. And it was actually, I don't know if it's out there yet. And I'm going to go look. Hold on. Before I tell you guys the title, I want to tell y'all, I want to see if it's live yet. Because if it is, it has everything to do with if somebody wants to start streaming. Okay, that is definitely not. Come on, YouTube. I can do this. I can do this. Recordings will be available soon. Okay, well, I will just link to the website so you can go do it. But I gave a talk about saying fuck it. And it was extraordinary. And I say that in the fact of coffee. You could always just say fuck it and, do it. And it's scary and terrifying. And I will say not for everybody because as I have talked before about not doing things on live, unless I'm doing them live, I don't always do them because I'm great at saying fuck it and just doing it. Nah, fuck it, we'll do it. It'll be fine and we'll figure it out. Does not mean I'm great at strategy. There is that. And it is a very fine balance. And this is why I have a lot of people around me that are very strategic and do things very methodically because I'm the opposite. And that is just one big thing that if you need encouragement to do something, when this talk is out, you should watch it. Very excited because I had like 3 days to plan for it too.
I look forward to watching it. Sounds great.
Yay. All right, y'all. And thank you, Chaos, for the follow. I appreciate it. Last but not least, let's go raid y'all to a channel. Ooh, I haven't seen them for a while. I feel like Trash Dev is really funny. So, but Nick's online. Literally, his username is Nikki Online and Nikki T Online. Nikki so T, therefore, we're going to go to Nick's because Nick is the best. So y'all are about to get raided. And I don't know if anybody else announces it or just does it, but I'm not great at multitasking. So that's why I just tell people they're going to get raided. Okay. Bye, everyone.